In order to clarify why planets appear to go into retrograde motion at times, I thought it might help to look at Saturn for comparison with Mars. Keep in mind that the retrograde motion is only apparent. In actuality, the planets only move in one direction. They never change direction. We begin with the same assumptions as before. We are standing at the equator, the Earth's axis is perpendicular to the ecliptic plane, and the Earth revolves around the Sun exactly once every 360 days. In other words, one Earth year equals 360 days, and the Earth revolves around the Sun approximately 30 degrees each month. Now, Saturn is much farther away from us compared to Mars, and it's also much farther away from the Sun compared to Mars. As a result, it takes Saturn approximately 30 years to orbit the Sun one time. That means it revolves about 12 degrees around the Sun per one Earth year, or 1 degree per month, or 60 degrees every 5 years. So let's look at Saturn on January 1st, every 5 years, starting in the year 2100. On the first night, Saturn is directly overhead at midnight in line with Gemini. (2105), it is in line with Virgo. 2110, Scorpio. 2115, Sagittarius, although we can't see it because it's behind the Sun. 2120, Capricorn. 2125, Pisces. Finally, here it is, January 1st, 2130, 30 years after our first observation, and Saturn is once again in alignment with Gemini. So far, at these 5-year time intervals, we have seen Saturn moving always in the same direction, eastward. This is the dominant or prograde motion of Saturn relative to the fixed stars. Notice that from this vantage point, Saturn, along with Earth, always revolves counterclockwise. This is true of all the planets. That is why, for all the planets outside the Earth's orbit, the dominant or prograde motion is always toward the east. In order to see its retrograde motion, we have to look at it at shorter time intervals. Let's look on the first day of each month for 13 months. To begin, let's go back to January 1st, 2100, when Saturn is directly lined up with Gemini. During the next 13 months, remember that Saturn will only move 1 degree per month in a counterclockwise direction. Therefore, it's the motion of the Earth that's going to have the greater effect on the apparent motion of Saturn. And again, by apparent, I mean the position of Saturn relative to the stars, in this case, Gemini. February. Saturn now appears west of Gemini, which means that it is currently in retrograde motion. More west of Gemini, still in retrograde. It is now less west of Gemini, so it has gone into prograde. Less west again, still in prograde. Less west, prograde. It is now east of Gemini, still in prograde. More east, prograde. More east, prograde. More east, prograde. We're now at November 1st, and it is still more east, so still in prograde. Virtually no change, so it is going into retrograde here on December 1st. Less east, retrograde. It is now February 1st, 2101, exactly 13 months after our first observation, and Saturn is once again aligned with Gemini. It's in retrograde motion, and the retrograde motion has been occurring at a particularly rapid angular velocity over the last month. Notice that the Earth is very close to Saturn at the moment. And in fact, one constant and striking feature of the apparent retrograde motion of all planets outside the Earth's orbit is that it appears most rapid when the Earth is closest to the other planet. See if you can explain to yourself why that would be. Think in terms of the relative motion of the Earth and the other planet. Just for fun, let me try to simulate what you might actually have seen with these 13 observations through the miracle of simulated time-lapse photography. Here we go. We will go through once slowly and then a second time more rapidly.